welcome to the Dynamic Duo.
Welcome to the new Batcave and Avengers Tower, everyone.
Ah, there you go. Where we talk all things superhero cinematic verse. We're just fans, essentially. And I've been looking forward to this show, Kevin, for all since last week when we talked about it, because I really want to talk about all these different subjects that we talked about. And today, on today's show, what we're going to do is a quick review, really, on every single superhero movie that's come out and or TV shows that's come out since Superman, since 1978 Superman. I just want to get your quick idea, quick thoughts, your quick critique of those movies, so that, if anything, our audience kind of knows where we stand and why we stand there. I'm thinking 1 to 2 minute per review. Feel free to go as long as you want, because some movies will need to be elaborated and others, won't. So feel free to do that. So I know you made a list of the movies, and I know since we started with the first one, 1978 Superman, what's your thought?
I mean, excellent interpretation of the material. It was updated well enough without losing the context of what was needed to bring Soupy to the big screen. I thought it was pretty much perfect. Superman 2, I enjoyed it. Very good watch. A lot of it was really well done. Some of the story and plot points were a bit muddied, but I enjoyed it. Superman 3 shouldn't have been done. It was a bad idea to begin with. Unfortunately, I think the studio and all concerned simply saw it as a cash grab. And I do know that based on an old interview with Richard Pryor, Warner Brothers owed him a movie, and they decided to drop him into that one as a way of closing out his contract, and that's really how he ended up in the film. But I really thought it was a bad idea from start to finish. Superman 4, interesting concept, delivered badly. Supergirl, nice idea, wasn't fleshed out enough. And the overall script, and I have a copy of what the original was, or should have been as a shooting script. They went way too far off the rails with what they were trying to do. It was literally 5 different stories shoved into one. Like I said, interesting concept to bring her into the mix. I don't know if you know this or not, but Christopher Reeve was originally supposed to be in the movie, but because of all the script changes and all the things that they had done, he backed out. I mean, Superman, the movie for me, definitely a 5. Superman 2, a 3.5 to a 4. Superman 3, 1. Superman 4, 1.5 to a 2. Almost a 1, to be honest, when I really get down to it. And Supergirl, I give it a 2 for the effort, leading into a 3.
I got you. All right, so let me tell you my quick, brief analysis then. My quick view. For me, Superman 1 is one of the most important superhero movies to ever be made. I think it's one of the most iconic movies in American cinema. Forget about superhero movies, in American cinema. I think that Christopher Reeve has become an icon in our minds as Superman, and that's lasted the test of time. I think what Donner did is way ahead of his time. I think what Donner managed to do at that time is greater than what most movie directors are doing today with the benefit of CGI.
Yes.
And so while the special effects are certainly nowhere near as good as what they are today, I give him a 5-star rating just for special effects compared to what's happening today with all the benefits of technology that they have. I give Superman 1 a 4.75 out of 5 star. The quarter star is the slight criticism I have, and we've talked about this before, about the portrayal of Lex Luthor and particularly Otis. The oafish Otis didn't work for me. Not to say it couldn't have worked, but the way Donner presented the film, the way Christopher Reeves was coming off and Superman was coming off, it was a good, legitimate movie. Otis and Lex Luthor didn't fit that. It just didn't make sense because he was too goofy with respect to the rest of the movie. So I didn't like that aspect of it, even though it was fun. So I remove a 1/4 star. But besides that, great movie. Superman 2, for me, another great movie. And it's an interesting choice for me because I think Superman 1 is a greater movie, but I enjoyed Superman 2 better because it introduced the first superhero, supervillain, superpowered fight. And again, limited in technology, but you know what? It blew my mind at the time. And I saw Superman fly, I saw Superman fight, and I give that also, that's a tough one. I have to be objective. There are 2 ways to rate these movies. There's the critique, objective critique, and then there's the personal choice critique. And I'm sorry I didn't say for you to do that if you'd like to as well. Movie choice critique, objective critique, it's a 4.5 star. Personal choice, it's a 5 star for me. I love that movie. So now that and Superman 3, 4, 5, and Supergirl, to me, they're not worth really talking about. There's a whole history. Because of the interest of time, we're not analyzing these movies in depth. So we're not going to go into Donner's history and all the problems that he had with the studios. To me, they're just not worth talking about. And they, unfortunately, took away all the goodwill that Superman 1 and 2 had built up with the audience and made us think of superhero movies as the campy, nonsensical thing that they've become. So from there, what's next on the list?
Honestly, Batman 89.
Correct.
I loved it. Always have. I mean, but then again, as the audience already knows, I'm a huge Batman nut. So the movie has a soft place in my heart. I loved how the movie was shot for the most part. Cinematically, I thought they really nailed the look of a lot of Gotham. I thought the lighting and other technical aspects of the movie were dead on. I would say for the entire thing, maybe 4 3/4.
Wow.
I don't want to give it a complete 5 because there were some things about it that I did not like. Primarily the death of the Joker. I thought it was a mistake. And there were a couple of story quirks that I honestly thought you shouldn't have went down that road. But outside of that, like I said, 4 3/4. If I may, Batman Returns, a 3.5 to a 4. I thought the movie was a fun watch. There was a lot that they were trying to throw out at the audience all at one time because in a lot of ways, at least to me, they tried to recreate what they had started with 89 and they couldn't capture lightning in a bottle the second time to me. Batman Forever, I enjoyed it. I liked, in spite of the trouble that the movie does have, I have to admit it's a guilty pleasure of mine. Rating wise, I'd say between a 3.5 to a 4. I love the simple fact that they brought Robin into it. That helped sell the movie for me. As I've said in previous shows, with the Riddler being the villain, that was a major plus. Again, along the line of what had been done with Batman Returns, there was a lot that they tried to do production-wise and the look of the film. Some of it I thought worked, other pieces of it fell apart. Batman and Robin, a 2.
Okay.
I just honestly felt that they were trying too hard after having Nicholson in the first, and DeVito and Pfeiffer in the second, and they were hot properties at the time. And then, of course, to jump into Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones as co-stars for the leads, they were trying way too hard to overload that movie by way of having Clooney in it, Schwarzenegger, and everybody else, and the script simply didn't work. And that's where my 2 comes from. The only reason why I give it a 2, honestly, is that there were a couple of scenes in the movie overall that were interesting to see, but as an entertainment, as a movie, no.
So this is where we might differ a little bit, and that's okay. And I hope you forgive me.
That's
But so for me, Batman 1989, and the quick history is that I went to the movie theaters to see that movie with my best friend at the time, and we went to Manhattan to watch that movie, and it was the greatest experience in my life up until that point. We were in a blockbuster line. Everyone was getting along. We were all excited. We were all in our Batman gear. It took us 2 hours to get to the movie theater, but we wanted it to be 4 hours because we were having such a great time. We got to the movie theater. Everybody was on board. Everything that happened, we all cheered. We all got up. We were just blown away. The scene where the bat jet, the bat plane goes up to the moon, I mean, the audience lost its mind. I love that movie more than anything. I had anticipated that movie since it had been announced. I had all the books and all the, posters and flyers, you name it. I watched that movie 9 times, and I was proud of that fact until you told me you saw it 23 times and blew me out of the water.
Yeah, 23.
And yeah, you said 43 or 23?
No, 23 in theaters, and to be honest, I've now seen it 206 through home viewing and television.
Dear God, oh my God. Okay, all right, so here's where I'm gonna break your heart a little bit, okay? And forgive me, all right? I hope you don't hate me for this. So at the time, I took it personally when someone didn't like that movie. I thought they were just hating on me, like they didn't like me. And so if I said, "Oh, this Batman, let's go see it together," because that's what I would do. I'd drag people into the movie theater. And what do you think? What did you think? And they were like, "It wasn't that good." And I was like, "How dare you? Like, you know what? The only reason you're saying that is because you must hate me deep down inside, and you must hate my love for superheroes, and you're just jealous." And until I went to see Batman, which is the one with Schwarzenegger. That's Batman Forever.
That's Batman and Robin.
That's Batman and Robin. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So I went to see that movie, and I'm sitting along, and I was with a group of people, and one of them was a younger kid. He was about maybe 13 years old.
Okay.
And we're watching the movie together, and I'm also with adults. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, what a disaster. This is the worst movie I've ever seen. And the kid turns to me and he goes, "This is great." And I turned to my friend and he was like, "Oh, this is so good." And the blinders, my dear friend, came off. I was like, holy crap, is that what I've been doing with respect to the Batman movies? Has my love for those movies made me blind to the quality of the movie? And so I went back with an objective point of view and looked at it. And frankly, I realized that it's a very flawed movie, in my opinion. I think Tim Burton is not a superhero director. He's a genius with respect to what he does, but he's not a superhero. He doesn't really get the concept of the superhero. I don't think he understands Batman. When he was given the project, it wasn't something that he was excited about. He looked forward to, and something that he reinterpreted into his style. The delivery on the action was very, very poor. Action in a superhero movie to me is very, very important. And the delivery of that was very, very poor. I think that Michael Keaton did the best job he could, but Michael Keaton is not Bruce Wayne, in my opinion. Bruce Wayne is a much more suave, debonair, bigger, slicker type of person, not the quirky person that Michael Keaton was at the time, even though he didn't play a quirky Bruce Wayne. I just thought, I just think the movie is very, very flawed and not a very, very good movie. And I had to remove the blinders to be able to see that. And I don't want to detract from your love of it. And that opinion.
I mean, not at all, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but you do realize or remember that Batman and Robin is the 4th movie in that series.
No, but I'm talking about Batman '89. I'm talking about the original.
Oh, okay. No.
I'm still talking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah. So everything I'm saying is the original movie. I realized that it was bad when I watched Batman and Robin, but up until that point, I thought it was a brilliant movie. But Batman 1989 to me is a flawed movie. I think it's. I think I can break down a lot of the things that I find that are wrong with it. Batman, the second Batman with Catwoman, it was to me a little bit better. I think Tim Burton a little bit learned more about the genre. Again, when you compare it to the subsequent movies that have come out, like some movies hold up. Like for me, Superman holds up. Yes, the technology wasn't as good. Yes, the CGI and the special effects weren't as good, but to me, it holds up. In my view, those movies don't hold up with respect to the action, with respect to the performances and the storytelling and so on and so forth. And just like as with Superman, after the second one, which I would rate that, 1989 Batman, a 2.5, just for effort and for the joy that it gave me. The second Batman, I'd give it a 2 3/4, a little bit more than the first one. And then from then on, it's just a failure for me. It's just a failure for me. Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, Batman. To me, they were a huge disappointment. And Schumacher completely ruined it. And Schumacher did what Superman 5 and Supergirl subsequently did. In other words, it ruined the potential of the superhero genre cinematic verse movie. So I wasn't there. So what came next?
See, I'm trying to hold on. Let me peek at the list just for a second.
I think Blade, right? After the last Batman.
Actually, you're right. I loved Blade. They took a couple of liberties with the way Blade had been done, of course, but because of what it was, I really enjoyed it. Of course, the primary for my enjoyment of it was from Wesley Snipes and the chemistry that was put forth between he and Chris Christopherson, and having Stephen Dorff there as the villain. I thought it worked. I would say as an overall presentation, a solid 4. Again, there's no other way for me to put it except to say that although they made changes to certain aspects and history of the character, overall, I thought it was very enjoyable. The second one, I liked, thought it was also a very good watch. I would give it a 3 1/4. I really enjoyed the fact that in the second one, he wasn't alone. I thought that was an interesting take on how to progress the character somewhat. As I said, for that one, 3 1/4. Blade 3 should have never happened. I don't know if you know this, and I just want to mention it. The original story was supposed to have been Blade versus Dracula. Marvel didn't have the rights to the Dracula character, so they reworked everything about the production and within the story to try to get away with that, and it fell apart. And the other thing that did fall apart was that Wesley Snipes did not get along with the director. they eventually stopped talking to one another, period.
Wow.
And it killed the movie.
Wow.
I would say overall, Blade 3 for me, a 1.5.
Wow. 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 Now, for me, Blade is one of the best movies out there. I absolutely love it. And again, this is a movie that came out at around the same time as the Batman movies. And when you compare the delivery of that movie, I think that's when I realized how poor the previous movies had been. The action delivered in Blade influenced and influences action today. The fighting sequences, they all come from two sources in movies. It comes from The Matrix and it comes from Blade. Mm-hmm. And credit to Blade, Blade wasn't copying Matrix. Blade wasn't, I think it came out before Matrix.
Yes, it did.
So that fighting style, if you see it, it's what's happening today when you see Captain America fighting in his movies. It's pretty much that same thing. Of course, things have been expanded upon, but that's where it came from. And that was a unique, no previous movie had that type of action sequence. The delivery of it, the build up to the crescendo of it, the conflict at the end, the battle at the end. These are just classic superheroic tropes that, as a superhero comic fan, I love. And so Blade to me was, yes, a great movie, very well delivered, action-packed, mind-blowing, excellent. I give it, this is a tough one. I give it, you know, there's nothing wrong with Blade, in my opinion. I give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
I give it a 5 out of 5. Blade 2, that was enjoyable to me. It didn't have the sort of solid trope superhero buildup. It wasn't delivered as well. So I give it a 3.5, just because it wasn't able to replicate what the first one had done. Some sequels, you know, are better than the originals. Mm-hmm. This wasn't. But it was a good effort. There was nothing wrong with it. 3.5 stars, maybe even 4 stars. And then again, from there, as you said, Blade 3, to be honest with you, I don't even remember Blade 3. It just didn't work. It was a disaster. So it's not even worth talking about, in my view. What's next?
Although these are not directly related to either Marvel or DC, the 3 that followed were based on pulp novels and pulp characters, meaning The Rocketeer, which I thought was a great popcorn movie. I would honestly say, for what it was, The Rocketeer was 3.25, followed by The Shadow with Alec Baldwin.
I remember that.
I actually enjoyed The Shadow, and I thought it was well done. But the problem that The Shadow had, which was the exact same trouble that The Phantom had, as a follow-up, the audience of this day and age are not really familiar with the pulp novel heroes. So it didn't mean anything to them. Correct. I am a fan of that material, so it worked for me. I enjoyed The Phantom a lot. I'm a huge Lee Falk and Phantom fan, and I truly thought they nailed it. In my opinion, The Phantom is a solid 4 to 4.5. And forgive me, I did forget one, and that was Dick Tracy. Honestly, although Dick Tracy again is not relatable to Marvel or DC, I truly thought for everything that Warren Beatty and the folks at large pulled off, I would say Dick Tracy was a solid 5.
Wow.
Because he pulled off the world that Chester Gould created, and he did it in a primary color format.
Wow.
Dick Tracy to me looked like a living comic book.
Wow.
And that was a major plus for me when I saw it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. For me, The Rocketeer was just a fun movie. Not memorable, not one of my favorites, not one of those movies that surprises you and becomes your favorite little movie ever, but certainly fun and enjoyable. I have no problem with it. I don't think it was poorly delivered, poorly done. Um, you know, I'd give it a 3.5 star as well, just as with you. The next one on the list was The Shadow.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I fall into the category of not knowing that Pulp Fiction material, so I never knew The Shadow.
Okay.
So I don't have that connection with him. So I don't know how well it was delivered, how poorly it was delivered. It was a movie. It was fine. It wasn't bad in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't, again, memorable. It didn't become one of my favorites. Some movies, like if you go to see RoboCop, you don't know anything about RoboCop, and by the time I came out of the theater, I was in love. I mean, I was in love. RoboCop was a great movie that resonates with me to this day. Those movies didn't do that for me. So in a way, it failed to deliver, but at the same time, it didn't disappoint me or horrify me either. Dick Tracy, I don't know anything about that character whatsoever. I did see the movie. I didn't enjoy it per se, but I do respect what you're saying, and it means a lot to me that you're saying it as someone who does know Dick Tracy. And I do agree with you that delivering that original comic book vision, the colors, that's a plus for me. And so those movies I'm not going to rate because it's not fair to rate them. I don't really know enough to rate it well. It was delivered, it was delivered in a way that it was delivered, and it didn't necessarily resonate with me per se, but it is what it is. That doesn't mean anything, And I think the X-Men came next, right? X-Men?
Yes.
Yes. No. Now we get into the nitty-gritty. Now we get to where the fans might just start throwing tomatoes at me, at least at me, because you go, my friend, you go.
I enjoyed the X-Men for what it was, as a first attempt to bring that type of team to the big screen. I for what it was at the time, I thought it worked. I thought the performances weren't terrible. I really did like Patrick Stewart. I thought he nailed Xavier, and Ian McKellen, to me, as an older Magneto, and the way that he played against Stewart and vice versa, I thought it worked. At the time, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, again, I thought that he was able to bring that into the fold and make it work. I liked James Marsden's Cyclops. I have to admit to you, even though she's a decent actress, Anna Paquin was weak to me as Rogue. They didn't, even though the story centered around her, they didn't give her enough to do. I felt the same way about Femke Janssen, and considering that the second movie was really about Jean and what was supposed to have been the progression of Jean, I thought that was a mistake that they kind of left her at the wayside. Halle Berry in there as Storm, I thought she looked decent in the costume. She did an okay job for what they had her do, in my opinion. Holly could have phoned in that performance.
She did.
I really, again, like I've said about the other two actors, she didn't do enough that was to the point where, and I'm not saying that every time one of these movies is done that you have to knock the socks off of the audience, but she didn't do anything. They didn't give Storm anything to do. She had her one big moment in the sun, so to speak, and that was it. Overall, for what it was at the time, I will say that the X-Men was, rating-wise, 3.25 for me.
3.25.
Yeah.
3.25. Now, before we move on to anything else, let's stick with the X-Men. I absolutely hate the X-Men movies. Now, I realized something, and I realized that I'm going to grade a lot of people. And it took a long time for people to start realizing that the X-Men movies are not what they used to be. Most of the audience fell victim to what I fell victim to. And the way that I love the Batman movie with blinders on and losing my objectivity and wanting it to be more than what it was is the way the majority of people went to see the X-Men. I remember the desperation that we had as fans to go see these movies and to see our X-Men, which was the hottest thing at the time, on the big screen, and how we forced ourselves to see what wasn't there the same way I had forced myself to see what wasn't there in Batman 1989. And let me remain objective. Let me say this about the X-Men movies, as much as I hate them, as much as I hate the first one. It was an important movie. It reset the standard. By the time Batman Forever had come out, the whole concept of the superhero movie had yet again gone down. The audience had lost respect, and we all thought it was going to be campy nonsense. And the X-Men regenerated, restarted the whole potential for the superhero movie genre by saying, hey, no, look, these movies can be handled in a mature, sensible, well-delivered type of way. The acting performances, I mean, you're talking about some of the better actors, Ian McKellen, you're talking about Patrick Stewart. They delivered what they could deliver. So objectively, those are the pluses for the movie. Realistically, here's my problem with the movie. Bryan Singer, I don't use hate very often, but I hate Bryan Singer. And Bryan Singer, the reason that I do is because he didn't respect the material. He did not respect the material. And to him, it's like dealing with garbage and it's like the expression, putting lipstick on a pig. Like, how can I make this reasonable? And so let me dumb down every aspect of this, in my opinion, of the superhero genre and deliver it in such a way that makes normal people accept it. Completely doing away with the costumes, putting them in leather, and making fun of those who appreciate the so-called yellow spandex, even though it's not yellow spandex. But making fun of it and putting it down, putting the audience down. To me, by the time I had seen the X-Men, the blinders had come off of me for Batman. And so I was able to look at it objectively from the onset. And I was like, no, this isn't working. So Bryan Singer bastardized and butchered almost every aspect of the X-Men. He butchered the origins of the X-Men with no regard to any kind of connection. That's not how Wolverine came to the X-Men. That's not how Kitty Pryde came to the X-Men. That's not how any of it was at all, like at all. That's not the relationship of the X-Men. Well, Wolverine is the leader and everybody's following him around. That's not the dynamic of the X-Men. I'm sorry to say that.
Agreed.
And also, that's not Wolverine. Now, I know a lot of people love Hugh Jackman, myself included. I do love Hugh Jackman. So I don't use hate very often. I don't use love very often. I love Hugh Jackman. And I think Hugh Jackman did the best job that he could, given the circumstances. But Wolverine's diminutive size is important to the character. It's a Wolverine. It's a small but fierce and vicious animal. Introducing a 6'4", 6'5" guy as Wolverine is the opposite. It's kind of like delivering a skinny Hulk. It doesn't work, in my opinion. And having him be the lead also contradicts the basis of the character. And so, horrible delivery, besides my love and respect for Hugh Jackman, terrible delivery of Wolverine, terrible relationship between the X-Men, terrible origin, horrible delivery of action. We had come from Blade, and watching the fight scenes and the action sequences in the X-Men was like, are you kidding me? Like, Bryan Singer is a good director. Like, some directors are not good directors. He is a solid good director. He can deliver a scene. But what he's not is that he's not an action director, and he's not a superhero action director. And so that was a total disappointment. The old Magneto, it was just, and then you add the lines of, the corny storm lines and the cheesy flying effects. Dude, 20 years prior, Donner was doing a better job with Superman than what was delivered in the X-Men. And the reason I hate the X-Men movies is because of the precedent that it set. for whatever reason, in our minds, in the minds of the cinematic fans, we accepted this to be the new norm. And not every movie, but most of the subsequent movies that came out were heavily influenced. The idea of the superhero costume went by the wayside, thank God for Spider-Man, we'll talk about that. But everybody had to be in leather, everybody had to have protective garb, everybody had to have blah, 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 and the superhero genre fell by the wayside until this day. It influences movies until this day. And so, yeah, I do not like the X-Men movies, and particularly the first one. And X-Men 2, go ahead, and what's your thought on X-Men 2? Well, what came after that? Spider-Man? I think Spider-Man came next.
No, I believe Ang Lee's Hulk was after X-Men and Daredevil.
You think before Spider-Man?
Oh yeah, they both were before Spider-Man.
Really interesting.
Yes,
okay.
They both were. And of course, Elektra. Now, for Ang Lee's Spider-Man, honestly, the only thing that I thought was unique about that movie.
You mean Ang Lee's Hulk?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ang Lee's Hulk. The only thing that I thought was unique about that film at all, and I understood special effects at the time and what have you, was the way the movie was cut and edited together, because they made it look like the scenes were comic panels.
Comic, yeah, that's right.
That was it. I did not like the performances. None of them stuck out to me. Even for the special effects of the time, the Hulk was not animated correctly to me. I didn't like the story. I felt that Nick Nolte was dropped in as a name only because he added absolutely nothing to the movie. I didn't like the changes for the origin and a number of other things that had been done. The movie simply did not work for me. I give it an absolute 0.
Wow, 0. Not even a 1.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Like I said,
so Ang Lee's Hulk for me, I agree on most part and everything that you're saying. I don't give it a 0, but I do agree. It comes from the basis of not knowing the characters and delivering the characters. And like the X-Men, it set horrible precedences that are followed to this day. So Ang Lee doesn't know the Hulk, and he's not a superhero director. He's a good director. He is also another good director, and he's also a decent action director. And I appreciated the effort. I really did. I appreciated the effort. At least it delivered a Hulk, as opposed to a Lou Ferrigno type running around with green paint. I like the size of the Hulk, but then he betrayed the Hulk. So certain characters' origins are essential to their core, and to take away that Hulk origin, the explosion of the gamma bomb creating the Hulk, it's like what are you doing? Why? And so when you bastardize the Hulk, the story, the origins, like the X-Men had done, when you don't deliver in those bases, you're losing the audience. And then, so one of the precedents that he set is the monsterish, Godzilla-ish Hulk.
All right, come on. Let's take it easy.
The non-speaking, sort of sound, like it's not a human being screaming, but like a monstrous sound coming out of the Hulk, sets a precedence that affects movies to this day. Hulk speaking is like a big deal now because of that precedence. So he did that, and that was a horrible thing, because the Hulk speaks. It's very important to understand the character of the Hulk. The Hulk is a misunderstood child. He's the big blundering oaf who, in an effort to try to rescue or save a girl from falling into the water, bumps into a table, which makes it look like he's knocking her into the water, which makes people attack him, which makes him react to that attack, and which makes him the misunderstood monster. That's why, just like as you've often said, Batman needs Robin. In my opinion, the Hulk needs Riggs Jones.
Yes.
And he needs Riggs Jones to be that voice, to be the one to say, no, guys, no, you don't understand what's going on. And to be the friend to Hulk, to give us that sympathy. It is a Hulk movie, first and foremost, over a Bruce Banner movie. And that's a mistake that to this day they haven't quite gotten. Hulk has a character. He is a character, and we fall in love with the Hulk, not with Bruce Banner, what happens to Bruce Banner. So that was a terrible thing. Another precedent that he set was the CGI action sequence at night, which even Avengers Endgame felt guilty for that. And to me, that's like, it's worse. It looks worse when the CGI is at night as opposed to in the daytime. And for whatever reason, a lot of directors fall for that trap of delivering CGI related action in a nighttime setting. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that Ang Lee's Hulk delivered. The movie was a total bust for me. I don't give it a 0. I don't give it a 1. I don't think it was a bad movie. I don't think it was, you know, poorly directed or poorly acted. I just don't think it resonated. So to me, I give it a 2.5 star.
One quick thing, if I may, concerning the CGI layout and what have you. Are you aware that at one point, or I shouldn't say one point because it was more than once, that during the process of animating the Hulk, it was Ang Lee himself?
I do remember that, yes.
Because apparently one of the stand-in actors or something quit, and they had to have somebody else there.
That's
so
right.
They ended up doing motion capture with Ang Lee, and Ang Lee is not much bigger than I am. And
that's right.
I'm not that tall, and Ang Lee is pretty much smaller than me.
Yeah. Now, of course, it was CGI, so his size didn't reflect on the size of the Hulk, but yeah.
Honestly, I think that helped play into it a little bit, because I think it was harder, in my opinion, for the animators and the illustrators to have reference points, even though he was in a motion capture suit.
Interesting.
There is a difference between having an actor who's out to here, okay, and you've got an actor that's here.
I gotcha.
And I do think technical aspect wise, it makes a difference.
I understand wholeheartedly. One of the things that I hated about the movie, oh my God, I hated it. And I hated the fans for accepting it. You know, the sheep that basically goes along with what they're told. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but the Hulk does not get bigger the stronger he gets, okay? He does not
Thank you for saying that!
He does not get bigger the stronger he gets.
Thank you for saying that!
I absolutely hated that. And again, it was misunderstanding of the character. It's presuming you can do it better. Bro, you know, no, sorry.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Hey, look! It's Spider-Man!
The dynamic duo return next week. Don't listen.